So
All right, welcome into the Newport This Week video podcast series. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Each and every week, we're here with some of the biggest stories in Newport and some of the things that maybe fall in between the cracks, so to speak. And today we have a pretty major story, no doubt about it. And our speaker is somebody who I think also deserves a moment to just sort of introduce themselves to anybody who doesn't know who she is or hasn't had a chance to hear your voice and see your face, so to speak. So, um, Councilor Smyth, if you'd be so inclined to just kind of give us that elevator introduction.
sure. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, so I born and raised in Newport, went to Rogers. I worked over at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center for about 17 years in government contracting, and then transitioned over to the Naval War College about a year ago, also working in government contracting. The skills that real quick that I bring to the table is not only in contracting, but also I worked on doing process improvement events over at Newark. And I also was a vice president for the local union. So I'm very familiar with grievances and trying to fix problems. So
Well,
there you have it.
and that may be the very essence of municipal government, right there. Grievances and problem solving. If nothing
Mhm.
else, that's what will transpire, no doubt about it. So the Coggeshall situation, I think it's good to look at it in really an umbrella context. Give us sort of the general backstory of how we got to a point today where now a vote to reject the Coggeshall School property purchase and sale agreement between the city and BCM Realty Partners has transpired. How did we get here?
So to be honest with you, I'm still trying to get all of those long-term details myself from the time that the city acquired the school back in 2013 to where we are here today. I came into the process over the past couple of years just by attending more and more council meetings and hearing where we are in the process as far as the request for proposal being reopened and BCM being one of the individuals, one of the organizations that submitted a proposal. So, cut to the purchase and sales agreement that ended up on the agenda last week. There's essentially been, radio silence over the past year as far as where we have stood on this, doing a more deep dive into BCM's proposal once council approved to accept it and whether or not any negotiations needed to happen. So personally, as far as I'm concerned, looking at the information that was presented to council, there were some inconsistencies to me regarding what was proposed versus what was in the purchase and sales agreement. One of those things were the lease longevity as far as being a 12-month lease that was reduced to a 9-month lease. That sort of raised some alarms to me because it was like, okay, what's going to happen with those 3 months? How is that going to be mitigated? How is that going to impact the community? Is that going to be something that is more of a summertime rental? Is it going to be considered more of a seasonal rental type of thing? Um, a few hours prior to the council meeting, we did receive an email from the solicitor's office saying that that had been changed back to the 12 months. However, my contracting experience doesn't let me look at something or approve something unless I see it in black and white. And because I did not see a revised purchase and sales agreement, I was a little bit concerned. The other thing was the wording of the workforce housing rental rates at market value, which was not something that was discussed in the proposal. So that sort of set off some alarm bells for various people throughout the community, specifically the abutters to the Coggeshall property. And it was, well, where does that leave us? Because the proposal called out a set value for what a one bedroom was going to rent for and what a two bedroom was going to rent for. And now the purchase and sales agreement did not have that information. So what does that mean for us going forward? To me, that means, well, what are the market rates that we're talking about here now? How can this change in 5, 10 years down the road, or for the life of this property being utilized for middle income housing? So those were the concerns that I had, which was why I had to reject the PNS as it was written.
So basically, in sum, the concern right now, or the fundamental breakdown of maybe where this could have been approved, is on definitions of what the workforce housing, or I should say, the market rate for those apartments, those units would be, and whether or not they're targeted or intended for workforce housing, which a lot of people would understand to be what used to be called affordable housing. That workforce housing term is used more often now, affordable housing applying to Section 8, Capital A housing. So, workforce housing versus what some might call luxury housing or market rate compared to the abutting properties. Is that essentially what is in contest at this moment?
Yes, yes. In my estimation, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for the other counselors, but it appeared that that was the biggest concern, and the biggest concern because we are in a bit of a housing crisis. You know, your middle income individuals, especially your key personnels within the city, your police, your fire, teachers, hospital staff, cannot afford to live in Newport with the way that things are. So a large portion of your key personnel have to live off island. That, you know, as somebody who grew up here, those individuals were our neighbors. You know, your teacher lived down the street from you. So in the winter time when you had a nor'easter that came through, you were still going to school because your teacher could still get to school. Well, now if the majority of your teachers have to live off island, especially in northern Rhode Island, they're going to have a difficult time getting here just to teach for the day. So now you end up in a situation where you have another snow day that you didn't necessarily need to have because your personnel cannot get to the island to be able to teach your kids. And it's the same for police, fire, hospital staff. So in my opinion, and what sort of drove a lot of my concerns for this particular item with Coggeshall School is we have to set a precedent going forward that, you know, housing is a big concern. And we need to give it the robust attention that it deserves. And we should be putting everything regarding housing under a microscope to ensure that we are doing it the right way that is going to benefit Newport in 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. You know, I understand that there are a lot of items that have been coming down the pike, and there is that thought process that we just got to move it along. But to me, it's irresponsible to do that if we're not going to dot all our I's, cross all our T's, and make sure that we are doing things properly for the future of Newport. I think the thought process of let's just bandage this situation and kick it down the road has to change now. And we have to take things much more serious as to what community we are leaving to our future generations of Newport.
Mm. I think you would argue that housing is significant, if not probably the defining crisis of the moment, especially on Aquidneck Island, where there's a variety of specific challenges, be it historic property and zoning regulations, be it last mile ability to expand from the standpoint of sewer and electric, be it Airbnb and other short-term rental platforms that have gutted a lot of what was workforce housing and is now micro hotels and that expand beyond commercial districts. When you look at this right here, is this a case when you talk about the abutting property owners? Is this NIMBYism? Is this people saying, "Hey, wait a second, I live in this area. I don't want market rate. I'm part of it. I don't want workforce housing in my area either because of potential property devaluation or because of what they might call, in their minds, misunderstanding it, riffraff or something of that sort." Is that the concern you're hearing from adjacent property owners?
No. So that piece I'm not hearing. What I am hearing is that they just want things done the proper way. They want things done in a way that isn't going to negatively impact parking in their neighborhood, that isn't going to negatively impact traffic in their neighborhood. They don't want their day-to-day quality of life being impacted in a negative way by specifically those specific things that I'm hearing that they don't want that increase in such a presence that it prevents them from going about their daily routines and how they have always functioned in that neighborhood. But I'm not hearing, it's very few individuals that I've heard that they have concerns over the individuals that will be renting this property.
Mm, very important right there. And a different detail from that which we've seen in other situations around the state as of recent. We think about Johnston, where we had a planning board member essentially, I mean, frankly, make a racist comment about a potential workforce housing project that was going to be installed in Johnston. So it's a different attitude, and I think it's important to kind of point that out. Lastly, here, and again, appreciate your time. Where does this go from here? What are the next steps in terms of this project?
Well, that's what we're trying to determine. I believe that once council rejected the proposed PNS, that will now go back to the city solicitor's office, and the city solicitor's office will work towards renegotiating that, or at least bringing that to BCM's table of, do you want to renegotiate? And if that doesn't happen, then we'll be in a situation where we'll have to look at putting that request for proposal back out on the street and see what kind of proposals that we can get in at that point in time. But there's also talks as to, how we can move forward with communicating this to the city and the residents, and is a workshop needed to sort of get all that information out there to provide an opportunity for the public and for council to have a more robust discussion on the situation. So there's a few options out there that we're looking into.
Important story, no doubt about it. Counselor, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much.